Hello, welcome to Local Anesthetic Podcast, your regular injection of mind-numbing local news. This is episode 356 now. And of course, I'll say hello. Hello, Rob. How you doing? Good to see you as always.
Yeah, everything's fine in the world, all good, nothing to worry about. So yeah, all good.
What I would say is that in this rather, what was it I was thinking earlier? I like to think of this podcast as a sort of kind of a place to come away, like an oasis, not an oasis, an escape to some degree to enjoy sort of comical insanity rather than the terrifying insanity which seems to be enveloping us at the moment. Sort of, there are different kinds of insanity. This is the kind of insanity which, you can sit back and enjoy, not the other kind of insanity which really you don't want to dwell on too long because,
I think that's quite a nice tagline. LAPodcast, the good kind of insanity.
Yeah, there you go, the good kind of insanity. Rob, I'm kind of eager to crack on. We've got a lot to cover here. I would like to say to all of our listeners now, thank you for listening, and do remember that if you want more content, remember that we are on Patreon nowadays. It's LAPodcast. No, sorry, it's patreon.com/LAPodcast extra, and there you can get these bonus episodes. They're called LA Podcast and Extra Jab. And how many of them, I guess by the time this goes out, there are 16 on there now, Rob, and it's £2 a month. You always say, Rob, less than a cup of coffee. Much less than a cup of coffee, I imagine, nowadays. And there's already 16 episodes there already for your listening pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, can I now, Vodafone are doing this, what seems like a very generous offer where you can get a voucher for a free cup of coffee. Now, it's a small coffee. Now, can I just point out, the smallest coffee in Costa is now £2.90.
Okay, so for considerably less than a small cup of coffee from Costa, you can get LA Podcast, an Extra Jab delivered to your inbox. You just go there, you sign up. It's £2 a month. You can cancel at any time, of course, but why would you want to? That Robbie, that frightens me. It's like I had to go to hospital recently and got an Uber there. And I'm still, it's been a long time. I'm going to be honest, Rob, it's been a long time since I've got a cab. And to me, I still thought that kind of like a cab ride was about £6. Do you know what I mean? I'm living in some alternate reality.
Blimey, mate, yeah.
£6 would get you down the road now, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do this a lot, listeners, and it's been a long time since I got a black cab, but I was running late for an appointment with work and I had to jump in a black cab and realised that the starting fare was £4.50. And that seems unacceptable to me. So
you could get into a black cab, get out without moving, and it's £4.50. Nice.
Yeah.
Right, Rob, is there any news before we crack on here?
There's a bit of news. We have a new listener who's very kindly submitted a story.
Oh, good.
And has sent us an email to accompany, but I'll do that in the listener segment.
All right, Rob, here we go. Let's get into this. Now, I have, again, you knew, Rob, from the amount of stories that I sent you that time, how many stories I had knocking around my inbox, and I've got one here.
Yeah.
And I was doing due diligence, going through all the stories I've got, and this one is from September the 6th, 2021. So it's not exactly current, but I missed reading it out at the time. I still want to read it out because I like it. I'm reading the version that was covered by the Times of London, Rob. It's by Bernard Lagan, who is in Sydney, apparently. By the way, they do put, what I like about the Times, they put the time that the story was posted, and this was posted at midday on the dot. I like the idea this journalist just always gets things in on the hour. High noon. There's your story. Or he just leaves things
to the last minute, and that's literally his deadline. And
it could be that.
He finished writing at 11:59.
Yeah, it could be that. Now this is an Australian themed story, as you could probably tell by the fact he's based in Sydney. So headline: Duck shouted, in quotes, "You bloody fool," during mating ritual.
Right. Okay. Did it?
Yes. If it walks like a duck and swears like a trooper, then it's probably an Australian musk duck. Scientists have added ducks to the very small number of animals, Rob, such as parrots, that can learn to mimic humans after uncovering recordings of a sweary, lusty duck who was hand-reared on a nature reserve near Canberra. Would you like to know his name?
Can I just ask, surely a sweary, lusty duck is the episode title?
Yeah, I do like it, yeah. A sweary, lusty duck hand-reared on a nature reserve near Canberra is even better. His name, I think it's inappropriate, is Ripper. Just
right.
Because,
okay.
Just because
leave
of
that
there. Yeah. So the bird, who lived more than 30 years ago, was fond of repeating a phrase during his mating display that he learnt from his keeper, and that phrase was, Rob, in quotes, "You bloody fool."
I love that.
This is believed to be the first documented account of a duck mimicking human speech. Can I just say, I'd also like, Rob, the first documented account of a duck mimicking human speech. That is just fantastic.
Very strong title, that.
Thank you. Yeah, I like that. This study, published in the journal, which, by the way, is one I do subscribe to, Rob. The journal is called The Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society. Also a good episode title. Analyses...
the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society. That is fantastic.
I would say, Rob, that what we engage in routinely when we do this podcast are philosophical transactions. That's what we do, you and I. When we go off on these musings... We're making transactions, but they're philosophical transactions, Rob, which may very well be the currency of the future. Forget Bitcoin.
Yeah, good point. I'm also just thinking whenever that day is when we finally retire this podcast, I feel that we should write a memoir entitled "The Philosophical Transactions of Local Anesthetic Podcast."
Okay, remember that. Write that down. I really like that, Rob. Or that could even be the episode title. The birds were also able to imitate the sound of a car door slamming and human speech-like mumbles.
Interestingly, I mean, I understand that if it's mimicking its handler, that makes sense. But why would it choose to mimic a car door slamming?
Well, obviously, it's something it hears a lot. Now, I've often regaled you, Rob, with stories about a friend of mine that I grew up with, Ross, and his father, and that they would be stewards of these various animals, which they'd end up killing. I'm not going to tell a story inadvertently, I should say. Just want to make that clear.
Sure.
But I remember that they had this parakeet, I think it was, and that would mimic his dad's speech, and it would sit in the cage, and it would routinely just in the cage, and it'd go, "What? Petrol's gone up? What?" Because obviously,
he's right, Alex. The petrol has gone up.
He's
so
right.
It's a fair point.
He was a prophet, Rob. A prophet.
Absolutely. I do wonder whether the car door slamming followed by "you bloody fool" were related.
Yeah, that's what I wondered. Yeah.
As he shut a body part in the door.
The study by Carol ten Kate, a professor of animal behaviour at Leiden University in the Netherlands, and Peter Fulagar from Cicero, the Australian government science organisation, said that Ripper was a male musk duck born in 1983 and raised at the Tidbinbilla Nature Reserve outside the Australian capital. In 1987, Fulagar and other researchers recorded the sounds made by Ripper and other ducks. They included the car door slamming, human-like mumbles, and the repeated phrase, "you bloody fool," a common refrain of Ripper's caretaker at the nature reserve. He, the duck, whipped out these impersonations during mating displays, a press release issued by the Australian science media said. And I'm not going to keep reading this because I'm getting bored by it, Rob, but I did enjoy the comments. Vince's Cable says, "I've said this to myself more than a few times during mating rituals as well." David Roberts, similar experience, but after the ritual when I wake up in the morning. And Peter Humphries says, "It's normally the female who says it to me. Incidentally, why did the keeper keep swearing when close to a bird that is known to mimic humans?" And obviously there are the various puns you'd expect from comments on the Times. Is there any need for such foul language spelt with a W?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, let's move on from ducks, Rob. This story annoyed me. It's from the New York Times. You see, Rob, look at the highbrow publications which I navigate here. We're going from the Times of London to the Times of New York. This is a story, and I'd imagine you probably have heard of this, Rob. This is recent. This is from Valentine's Day. Well, not that recent, but reasonably recent. February the 14th, 2022. This made my blood boil, actually. Now, Rob, let's talk about religion.
Right.
I'd say that you and I are both religious to some degree, spiritual people, but I think we definitely coalesce, don't we, in agreement around the idea that what is important is the spirit of the law more than the letter of the law. That when people get bogged down too much in very, very strict dogma, you can sometimes lose the kind of point of what you meant, the point of what we're meant to be doing here in this world.
Yeah, I mean, and you can point that finger at many people. For me, it's often at the evangelical Christians in the US. The ones who are adamant Trump supporters, for example.
That kind of thing. Now, in this story, we're going to veer into the area of Catholicism. It's by Eduardo Medina, and the headline is "Pastor Resigns After Incorrectly Performing Thousands of Baptisms."
Oh, God. Okay.
Right.
I mean, Alex, I think we feel this obviously is very relevant. Obviously, you will be at some stage once we finally get around to organising Lyra's christening, which has been
when she's 10.
Well, maybe at this rate, which has been pushed back again. Approximately is going to be 2035, but we'll work it out.
Do we know when it's going to be, out of interest? It would be good for me to know in planning, like in a few months' time.
It would be good.
Right, okay. Whenever.
I agree. Yeah.
So, right, the Reverend Andre Arango was leading a baptism at St. Gregory Catholic Church in Phoenix last year when some people in the pews heard a slight variation in the religious ritual. So this is what they heard him say, Rob.
Right.
"We baptize you in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit," Father Arango said, his voice echoing in the church as he poured the holy water. But there was a problem. So, Rob, did you spot what the problem was?
No.
Well, Rob, this is why this story made my blood boil. This is the definition of a technicality, right? His error, Rob, was in saying, "we baptize." The Vatican instructs priests to say, "I baptize." And if it is not said that way, the baptism is deemed invalid.
I mean, first of all, by the way, for those who don't know...
God cares about this kind of thing, Rob. He cares.
Yeah, apparently so.
Does. Deeply.
So Catholic basically translates as universal, for those who don't know. And, I would say that given that it is one of the biggest organisations in the world, I would think that we... as in the Catholic family, would be a suitable substitute for I. I mean, what the actual fuck? Why does that matter in the slightest? It's not like he was dunking the babies in head first, was it?
What exactly? And even then, church leaders investigated, so they sent out their crack team. The ones who missed all those sexual abuse cases. But they're on this, Rob.
Well, Alex, they're making up for lost time. What can I say?
Yeah, they're on this. This is important. This is really important to get to the bottom of. Church leaders investigated and deemed... I want to sort of show a sitcom about a Catholic detective. I'd watch that.
That would be brilliant. But what I love is...
Based in the Vatican.
I don't know why. I imagine then like the UK border force, and as soon as he uttered those words, they just shut the christening down. Everyone was ushered out. They drained the font.
A SWAT team smashed through the stained glass windows. Right through the baby Jesus.
There's a guy, they burnt the church down after they got him out.
Yeah. Church leaders investigated and determined last month that Father Arango had incorrectly performed thousands of baptisms over more than 20 years, meaning, Rob, that those he had baptized in Phoenix and at his previous parishes in Brazil and San Diego were not properly baptized, and the oversight, Rob, has caused headaches for those now seeking answers about whether their faulty baptisms have spilled over into other elements of their Catholic faith. For instance, would it affect those who are married by the church? So, Rob, if you weren't correctly baptized, your marriage could be invalid. All because of this bastard.
I mean, it's pedantry on a new level, isn't it? I mean, but also...
There's a good episode title.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, I was going to say, the Spate of Faulty Baptisms is also a great episode title.
I do like that. The Diocese of Phoenix has answered online that there's no single clear answer to whether or not this is going to spill over into other elements of people's Catholic faith.
No, I'm sorry. No, there is a clear answer. It doesn't matter.
Well, until the Pope says that, Rob. Father Arango, who did not respond to calls on Sunday seeking an interview, apologised in a statement and said he was resigning as pastor of the parish effective on February the 1st. It saddens me to learn I performed invalid baptisms throughout my ministry as a priest by regularly using an incorrect formula, he said. I deeply regret my error and how this has affected numerous people in your parish and elsewhere. Can I just say again, I want to get on my soapbox. Considering, the Abrahamic monotheistic religion's aversion to all things superstitious.
Yeah.
And especially to things like magical incantations and various other things, to suggest that somehow the incorrect utterance of a sequence of words could, on the one hand, bestow upon somebody eternal life and salvation, on the other hand, not, is palpably nonsense. Anyway, sorry. And I might have offended some people there, and I apologise if that's the case, but I am exercising my right to a viewpoint.
I would like to stand by your statement, Alex. I think it's completely valid.
Yeah. So Thomas J. Olmsted, the Bishop of the Diocese of Phoenix, said in a statement that he did not believe Father Arango, in quotes, had any intentions to harm the faithful or deprive them of the grace of baptism and the sacraments.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Can I just say? Intentions to harm the faithful and deprive them of the grace of baptism and the sacraments is a very, very nice episode. Oh, how many have we had now, Rob? I love that. That's going to be my album title, actually. Forget that.
But, I mean, we're talking about a single word.
No, Rob, no.
But, again, I would argue that I would translate that as the church family. I don't see what that issue is.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that if you read, obviously there are different translations of, the Old Testament. But if you look at the King James Version, the most sort of well-known, I would argue, and probably the most poetic in a literary sense, throughout Genesis, God refers to himself as we.
Yeah. Very true.
Anyway, the Catholic News Agency has reported on the botched baptisms this month. It reads like the day-to-day. It is actually, it's a day-to-day story.
You're absolutely right, yeah. Yeah.
In the Catholic faith, a baptism is a sacrament in which people, often infants, have water poured over their forehead, symbolising purification and admission to the church. It is, in quotes, a requirement for salvation, according to the diocese. Adhering to the baptismal formula is extremely important to continue the tradition of the church, said Naomi DeAnder, a professor of religious studies at the University of Dayton in Ohio. It's not meant to be legalistic, but about communion, she added. Indeed, the Diocese of Phoenix addressed the specific rules by creating a fact section on its website about the case of Father Arango. I've got to look at that, Rob, the fact section where they've answered people's questions. Oh, can I just give you a list of the questions? I won't give you the answers.
Please do. Yeah, please do.
What were you going to say, Rob?
Well, I mean, I've been conducting backyards baptisms for many, many years, and the Church of England seemed fine with it. Yeah,
exactly. So the questions that you can have answered are, and stop me if you want an answer to one. Who is Father Andre? Do you want to know the answer to that? Not really.
No.
What exactly happened is the next question.
I think I understand. Yeah, no,
I've just looked at it.
Clear. Thank you.
It makes a very long-winded way of saying he used we instead of I. What is happening to Father Andre next? He's resigning.
It's a good question.
No,
what does the Spanish Inquisition do to him?
I love this question. Father Andre didn't baptise me, but he provided one of my other sacraments. Do I need to do anything? Their answer is, Rob, as far as we know, the other sacraments he conferred are valid. But so that's good to know, Rob.
Yep, good to know.
Why is baptism important? And obviously lots of biblical quotes from there. What did the Vatican say about using proper words when conferring the sacrament? Rob, I can't. There's more bloody questions here than the Ten Commandments.
But look, Alex, we just have to say we are thankful that the Vatican is finally doing something to rid the world of the bad apples within its community.
Well, exactly. I would say, Rob, that the most frightening answer to one of these questions, how does the baptism affect other sacraments? And they do specify that because baptism is the whole basis for Christian life and the gateway to life in the Spirit, well, they've said if your baptism was invalid and you've received other sacraments, you may need to repeat some or all of those sacraments after you are validly baptised as well. So you've got to go back, got to get validly baptised, and then you've got to have all the other things done. Now, quite what happens at the end of this all, if when you get to the pearly gates, God says, hang on, hold up, to the throngs trying to approach us, hold up.
Yep.
For years you were saying, I baptise you. You got it wrong. It was we. Then what?
It's difficult to know what's going to happen, Alex. I mean, I can only imagine that he's going to send you back and you have to do it all over again. Well, that seems unlikely. You probably just go to hell.
Okay, Rob. Stories. You have some stories for us, please?
So my first story is our obligatory story from the Daily Mirror. It is from the 17th of February by John Bett, who was the audience writer. It's nice to know they're writing for the audience there. I realised that I'm going to reference another story before we get into this one. So you remember we had a story on the page, one of the Patreon episodes, of a man who was whilst watching some deer rut, was enjoying a bag of kettle chips and discovered a potato.
A man who liked watching deers have sex outside his window. I remember it very well, Rob, because in one of the advertisements I put together for our Patreon episodes, you'll remember I used that very story as part of that advert, and I loved that story, Rob. It was one of my favourites of recent times. Is this a follow-up?
Well, Alex...
Man caught shagging deer.
No. Look. Buckle up. Woman gobsmacked to find 4 fried potato and packet of kettle chips.
A full potato?
Yes, a full fried potato.
Okay, a fried potato. What the fuck?
A fried potato.
How do you can you fry a whole potato?
Well, I think what happened is it obviously fall in the fryer when the chips were being fried.
And I've said it and I'll say it again. Unless she ordered... Right, let's get this clear. Unless she went online and ordered a multi-pack of kettle chips, or even just kettle chips, and had them delivered to her, she should have known something was amiss, because if she bought them physically in a store, any person within their right mind who picks up a bag of kettle chips that has a whole potato in it is going to notice the weight differential, Rob.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel right.
Well, Alex, look, it's quite clear that the Mirror were lying stories, and they've obviously turned to TikTok to try and pick up what could be passed as news.
That's a new low. Wow.
Yeah. Well, look, TikTok user Catherine bought a packet of salt and vinegar crisps, and when she opened it, she was in for a shock. She went to dive in, but instead of a packet full of delicious crisps, she was left with a huge gold potato covered in Kettle's iconic flavouring and perfectly fried.
Just so I can check, Rob, I am a scientist at heart. Rob,
of course.
I believe in the, experimental methods, all of that. Was she watching deer have sex as well? Because if she was, Rob, I'm noticing a correlation, which admittedly is not a cause, but was she watching deer have sex?
It doesn't say, Alex, and no, unfortunately, it doesn't mention. She is from Bristol. I mean, there's some lovely parts of, there's some lovely picturesque countryside around the area, but no mention of any deer. If
it was Bristol, I think it's probably more liking she was, watching people engaging in the act of dogging than deers having sex.
That's where I went there as well. Yeah, I have to admit. Yeah,
maybe they were wearing antlers though while they did it. So
it's possible. It is possible.
Novelty antlers. Yeah.
Or, just had vast amounts of semen in their hair, which then made their hair look like antlers. It's very difficult to say. So now Catherine, 22 from Bristol, has shared a video of the crisp, and her fans on social media all thought it looked delicious. But she said it didn't taste so good. Well, it's a potato that isn't cooked. So Catherine sharing her discovery on TikTok, where she wrote, "Can someone from Kettle Chips please tell me why I found a whole potato in the bag?" Her clip's been viewed more than 280,000 times, if anyone cares. One said that looks nice, though. Another said it looks beautiful. Maybe it's like the golden cream egg. You might find a prize. And Kettle Chips responded saying, "We'd like to apologise to our customers for any inconvenience caused. We're very proud to create delicious hand-cooked chips from 100% British potatoes." I mean, we can see it. Our potatoes are sliced, fried, seasoned. They're in Norwich. Wasn't aware of that. Alex, you don't need any more of this. You can guess. But there is one more story that's related to this.
Before you move on, I would have just liked the company to have just said, "Look, you know how this happened. We make potato crisps. Yeah, there's a production line where potatoes are chopped up and sliced and fried, and they're put into bags, and that's how we make chips. And obviously, the potato has mistakenly found its way into your bag. Grow up."
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely.
I would have respected them more for that, and be more likely to buy their product.
So, Alex, the story mentions another story. So, meanwhile, a hungry man was left disappointed after buying an oven pizza from Sainsbury's, which also turned out had nothing on it, just a few strands of grated cheese.
So hang on a minute. Again. Most pizzas that I buy nowadays, they always have that see-through plastic window, so you can see the pizza. So did he, or was this a blind pizza, or blind bagged pizza? You can't see what's inside. Never know what you're going to get.
Alex, I would hazard a guess. I mean, this is only a summary of the story within this story. he paid 49p for the pizza. So
What?
I imagine...
I didn't even know Sainsbury's. I'm going to need to get down to Sainsbury's. What pizzas are these for 49p? Well, maybe that's what you get. You just get a pizza base with a couple of bits of cheese. Put your own toppings on, mate.
Yeah. But, I mean, it says Tom Scott, who's a product designer. I'm guessing things have been a bit Lee recently. And also, with the cheap pizzas...
Cost of living crisis, Rob.
Yeah, true. I guess with these maybe with these cheese pizzas, they just come in a box, not without even any cellophane. So I'm assuming that's why. Apparently, he just got the bread and some tomato sauce and a few strands of grated cheese. So there we go.
But I don't know about you, Rob. Are you one of those? Because I like a nice pizza, but we put our own toppings on the pizza. Like we add to it, like mushrooms or whatever. So that's how it seems to work quite well. Do you ever do that?
I have done in the past, yeah. And I think if you're buying a 49p pizza, it's going to need some additional ingredients added to it. Personally, but I don't want to judge.
I don't know what he's complaining about. You can't even buy a bit of pita bread for 49p. You've just got a whole bit of bread for 49p with a bit of cheese on it. Take the toppings as a bonus, mate.
It is suspiciously cheap, if you ask me. Okay, so my next story is from the Birmingham Live. It is from the 5th of Jan. This goes back a bit. It's by Kirsty Bosley even. And the headline: Tesco shopper who wanted to buy sausage is asked for ID to prove his age.
So sorry, hang on a minute, Rob. I'm getting confused. You all your stories this week are very grocery themed.
It isn't unintentional, but yeah.
So sorry, Tesco shopper what?
Tesco shopper who wanted to buy a sausage is asked for ID to prove his age.
Right. Is this because they suspected he was going to do something untoward with said sausage?
Well, I mean, you made an assumption, Alex, that you said it was. It's a man. I thought it was a woman. Okay, it was a man. I mean, but also he should be allowed to do that, Alex. He's doing it in the privacy of his own home. Why should Tesco intervene with that pleasure?
What an Englishman, Rob, does in his castle with his own sausage is his own business.
Well, Alex, I'm not sure.
That was in the Magna Carta, Rob.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was taken out swiftly afterwards, but it was in there briefly.
A bit like the sausage.
Exactly. That was cooked for some strange reason. So a shopper who went to Tesco's to buy a sausage was asked for ID to prove his age. Now his name, by the way, is Fufu Fang.
And maybe this is why he was asked for ID. Maybe he said, "My name's Fufu Fang. I want a sausage." And they said, "We don't believe you. Show us your ID."
Yeah. So it is Fufu and Fang as in like a tooth. So Fufu Fang, 30, attempted to buy some dried So I tried to pronounce this before and get it. Saucisson sec French sausage. I've never heard of it. I've no idea what it is. Basically, it's a French sausage.
So horse meat then.
Self-service too. Yeah. Quite possibly. A self-service till when he was asked to prove his age. The BBC reports that the supermarket had listed the meat as a pair of secateurs, and therefore it was flagged as a bladed item.
How the fuck? Oh, right, because of the odd spelling that they thought was secateurs.
I'm assuming so. Yeah.
Right, but the person, the Sainsbury's monkey. Sorry, I'm trying to think of the word. The Sainsbury's
monkey.
The Sainsbury's worker didn't have the wherewithal to think, why am I asking for ID for a sausage? I don't need to do that.
Yeah, you would think that logically they would look through his bag and try to establish exactly what item had caused this. If that was the only item he was buying, surely you'd think that common sense would kick in and say, actually, should be okay here. But I also wonder whether it was like some sort of like 17-year-old who just desperately needed the work, and so was just basically following it to the letter of the law, Alex. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just like the Catholic Church with the baptisms.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So, saucisson sec is a dried cured pork product which costs £2.50. I mean, £2.50 for a pair of secateurs is good value for money, if you ask me.
It is. I'll take them.
Yeah. Which costs £2.50 for 290 grams, while secateurs are sharp clippers used by gardeners to prune bushes.
Not a euphemism.
You know.
Look, if you prune my bushes, I'll give you a sausage.
Absolutely. Did the Birmingham Live feel that it needed to make that definition clear to its listeners? Did they not feel that? Sorry, to its readers, did they not feel that they knew what a pair of secateurs was?
Rob, this is Birmingham.
Yeah, you're right, Alex. Yeah, they don't have gardens.
If you look at the Birmingham Live, every story has a legend underneath it where they explain key words like government and
like
schools.
news.
News. Yeah.
This is what we call news.
Yeah, exactly.
So Mr. Fang said, I was very surprised when I was asked if I was old enough to buy the sausage. I did a double take and thought, I hope I bought the right kind of sausage. I don't know what the hell he means by that.
Nor do I.
It was very odd, and the shop assistant had to call the manager over.
They're all holding this sausage up.
He thought it was a joke, and I thought it was a prank. I guess they thought the sausage was a bladed object, so they did check my age. Mr. Fang shared photographs of the adults-only sausage with a Facebook group for Cambridge locals. One shopper went so far as to review the sausage on the Tesco website, writing, not secateurs. They added, please note, Tesco's, these are not secateurs. Do not attempt to cut your roses with this product. You will fail. All very hilarious.
You don't want to try and prune a bush with a sausage, is the moral of that story.
Absolutely.
Okay, Rob. It is time for our listener story of the week. I know you're going to talk about this new listener we've got and an email they sent us, but before you get onto that, Rob, as you know, I hope it's not becoming tedious. I'm sure it enlivens most people's...
I mean, it is slightly tedious if you want to stop. I mean...
Just give me something to play, Rob. You know that I make these for Lara for when she's older, so she can listen back to all of them. Yep, go.
Okay. Well, let's... Oh, Alex, look, I know you love Don Henley and The Boys of Summer.
Yeah, I do actually love that song, but for some reason I can't remember it. Boy.
You see me.
Oh, I think my recorder's broken again, Rob. That's going to have to go back to the repair shop.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it started off well, but you can tell it's yeah.
Did it?
Anyway, Rob,
right, okay.
Who's this listener?
So this is from Peter, who lives. Well, actually, he's just moved house. So I hope that's okay. So say Pete. I will just say that Pete is a close personal friend, but he's just started listening to the podcast. I'm delighted by this, and not only has he felt the need to write us an email, submit stories. I don't want to spoil the email, but he basically what's the closest town? I should know this. I went to visit his new house the other day. Apologies, Pete. It's in Hertfordshire somewhere. That's all you need to know. So, with Pete from Hertfordshire, there we go. Sorry, there's a bit of a rant there.
Are you finished? Right. Did you say there was an email? Right, okay.
Yes,
can you get on with it? We're all getting bored.
Right, okay.
Don't listen.
So, evening, Rob and Alex. First to say, Pete, I appreciate we're friends, but yeah, please get the format right. It is Rob and Alex, but that's fine.
But that's what he said, wasn't it?
Alex
it
and
should
Rob.
be Alex and Rob.
That's what I meant to say, yeah.
I'm pleased that you recognise my superiority in the...
we're not superior.
In the order of our names.
Well, no, it's just alphabetically. It makes more sense. Yeah.
It's more of a fastidious, anally retentive thing, isn't it?
Well, possibly, yeah. So he writes, I hope this finds you both well. Yeah, we're not too bad. Just a quick email to say how much I'm enjoying the show. I can't believe it's taken me this long to give it a listen. Definitely my kind of humour. Delighted to hear that.
Well, you've got a lot of episodes to work through there, Pete, so we're happy to have you on board.
I've given myself the mammoth task of going back to listening to them from the beginning.
Wow.
Not quite realising this was 10 years ago, but I'm enjoying 2012 and all things Eagle Heights and Communist Stroud so far.
Have you told him that when we started? I mean, because when we started, what you were like 8 years old, weren't you, Rob? And so
yeah.
it's quite a strange dynamic. Me and this boy doing this podcast. And some people frowned upon it at the time, but they're laughing on the other side of their faces now.
They asked a lot of questions. Yeah.
Rob, is he? Oh dear. Is he on Patreon? Is the question?
Not yet. I mean, give him a chance, Alex. He's only just started listening. But he goes on, believe it or not, Eagle Heights is still open and thriving, albeit without the cheaters. Now, Pete, I realise you're going back to the beginning. Let me just say to you, we are aware Eagle Heights is still open, and it will be a permanent fixture of this podcast for the next 10 years,
Forever.
basically. We even have
you listened to episode 5 yet? Which is still where we cover Eagle, because that's the one, that is the classic. I don't think we've ever laughed as much on that. If you're on it listening, you've never listened to episode 5. Episode 5 is a mammoth episode. It's basically 2 stories. That's it. But one of the stories, which is all about this safari park called Eagle Heights down in Kent, that was magnificent, Rob.
Yeah,
absolutely magnificent. Anyway, sorry, continue. Pete's email.
No, I was going to say, Pete, we even have our dedicated, we actually have a dedicated Eagle Heights reporter, Steve, who regularly sends us emails from Eagle Heights. Anyway, he goes on.
Yeah.
I tried to search through my local paper, which is the Hitchin and Stevenage Comet, which I don't think we ever featured, Alex, as far as I'm aware.
No, so we need a story from there. We really do.
Yeah. But for some stories, I tried to search my local paper for some stories, but everything seems so normal. So I've instead searching through local papers where my grandparents used to live, which is Sheringham and Frinton. So that's Norfolk. So here's a story from. So he's basically submitted one story from the Clacton and Frinton Gazette, and another one from the Great Yarmouth Mercury, which is the one I'm going to feature.
Hang on, stop, Rob. Both of those are new papers that we've never featured before.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are
amazing. Thank you, Pete. That is amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and he just says, keep up the good work, and I'll try and send through some more stories in the future. So, Pete, thank you so much for writing the email. It is very much appreciated. And we will move on to his story. And also, I just want to say, by the way, I listen to Pedantry Radio 2 quite a lot. And, I mean, not the Claudia Winkleman show particularly, but it just so happened that this gentleman that we're about to feature the story was on the show. And he sounds like you'd expect him to sound. Anyway, right, so this is from the Great Yarmouth Mercury from the 15th of February by Liz Coates. Kate the bin spotter says weird hobby has serious side.
Did you say Kate the bin spotter?
So I think it's a place called Cainster or Caister. I'm not entirely sure.
Caister bin spotter.
Yeah.
Right. A bin spotter is presumably like a train spotter. They're somebody who likes to look out and catalogue bins.
So the
or trash cans, to use the Americanism.
Alex, you're literally jumping ahead here. So you've heard of train spotters and plane spotters. Now, I mean, Dave Clark, the bin spotter.
What a great name. Of course he's called Dave Clark.
Of course he is.
I mean, that is a real bog standard name if ever you've heard one. Dave Clark.
Yeah. Yeah. So the 51-year-old from Caister just loves the everyday objects and takes pictures of his favourite rubbish receptacles.
Now, we were just talking about people who are anally retentive and fastidious. I think he would fit that ballpark.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on this interview with Claudia Winkleman, he literally talked about travelling the country for bins. He literally travels around the UK spotting bins.
Can I just say, it's a bit of a weird coincidence, Rob, that your friend Pete sent a story from the Great Yarmouth Mercury about this bin spotter and you happen to be listening to BBC Radio 2 and heard an interview with him. That's very serendipitous.
I think what happened is, I think the story hit the national headlines. I think he's now famous, Alex.
I see.
And while he understands it's not for everyone, he is delighted to be able to share his passionate and encouraging a wide appreciation for his humble containers in all their uncelebrated diversity.
There's a lot of episode titles already in this. I mean, they're flying out of your mouth. I mean, there was one right there.
Yep. So, Alex, it all started with a fab bin at the Thringby Wildlife Gardens. So, do you remember the fab lollies, Alex?
I loved a fab. They were fabulous.
They were indeed. Well, that's where it started. So it was a bin with the iconic, not logo. What would you say? The iconic colours of the Fab Lolly.
Because wasn't a fat. So a fat. It was like a popsicle type thing. It's like a lolly, but wasn't it tricolour, Rob? It had 3 separate bits. There was a bit that was kind of covered in those sort of hundreds and thousands, as I remember. There was a brown chocolatey bit and maybe a pinkish, but I can't remember.
That's right, Alex. Of course, it was the brown at the top with the sprinkles. It was the white ice cream, and then there was like a strawberry ice cream at the bottom.
That was it.
A classic ice cream.
Yeah.
Not only is it a great lolly, it's a great bin, he said. Then 2 or 3 years ago, I thought, wow, that's brilliant, and took a photo, and it went from there. You could put any bin in front of me, and I could talk about it forever. It's a legitimate thing. A lot of people think it's weird, but it's a genuine interest, and there's a more serious message. It struck a chord with people.
So what's the serious message? I'm confused.
Well, waste management and recycling, Alex.
Right. The environment, you mean?
Yeah. I suppose that, I don't consider myself one of these lefty, the world is going to end bullshit. But yeah, Alex, I suppose if you want to, throw the environment there, yeah, absolutely.
Did I detect sarcasm there, Rob?
No.
Right. Does he like go around landfills, or is it just the bins he's interested? I guess my question is, Rob, is he interested in the bins or is he interested in the rubbish? The trash? Does he wander around landfills and, sort of pick through things?
No, it's
quite like to do.
It's very much well, the trouble is these days you get recycling centres where you can't enjoy the delights of salvaging through a landfill.
No.
But no, it is very much the bins. It's about the aesthetics of the bins, the shape. It's about the form. And Alex, I think there's.
Go on.
I think we're about to say the same thing. He may be sexually aroused by a bin.
I was about to ask, does he mention whether there's a sexual attraction? Is he wandering around wanking off into bins? This is the question. Into
Alex,
trash cans.
Look, we all need a hobby. And at least he's disposing of his semen in a responsible way.
We've all been there.
Yeah, absolutely. He goes on to say, but it's when I go to other areas I find it fascinating. 100 miles up the road, a green bin is a blue one, although there are a couple of really good ones on the Caister beach. Mr. Clark, a married, self-employed father who lives in Clay Road, said it was when he realised he had pictures of around 20 bins, he decided to knit them together for a video on his YouTube channel, which is optional Dave UK if anyone wants to visit, and that caught the eye of the wider public. You don't want to put rubbish in a manky old bin. You want a nice, clean, wacky one. And if you walk past it, it brightens your day. He said he wants to raise bin awareness and promote bin use. The better the bin, the more likely it is to be. It was more likely it was fed up with rubbish, helping the environment. Despite the gentle ribbing from family and friends, his hobby brought him amusement and satisfaction. And that's pretty much the end of the story, really.
But it doesn't say whether that satisfaction includes orgasmic climax.
No, the great Yarmouth Mercury doesn't comment on that.
Wouldn't his perfect job be a bin man? Then he get to spend all his time around them.
Well, it's a good question, but I think I think that he's looking for more aspirational bins. No, he doesn't want your run of the mill council bins, Alex. He wants bins that really pop.
And bins that make him pop, Rob.
Exactly, yeah.
On that note, Rob, on that climax, we bring episode 356 to a close. We look forward with a mixture of eager anticipation yet trepidation to episode 357, which will be our next episode as we move ever more forward. Can we just get rid? Do we need to do it? Can I just universally just say we're just going to get rid of the as we move ever more forward? Like, does anybody say they like it? Does anybody?
But I think, Alex, I thought you were going to. We mentioned this probably over a year ago. You said you were going to get rid of it, and for some reason it's made a return.
As we move ever more, it didn't make a return. I've kept doing it as we move ever more forward, Rob. Like, however many, God knows how many people, Rob, have been baptised incorrectly. Moving up Jacob's ladder, Rob, as it were, to heaven, only to find the door is locked because their baptisms have been issued incorrectly. Just one of those things.
Yep.
It's life. Just like that, move ever more forward to our next episode, which will be episode 357. As I say, we are on our website, www.lapodcast.net. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LAPodcast. We're on Twitter at LAPodcast. We're on Spotify. You can get all the episodes on Spotify as well. And of course, we are on Patreon. If you want more content, bonus episodes, they're called LA Podcasts and Extra Jab. There's 16 episodes up there already. If you sign up, not only will you have access to all of those, you'll be getting 2 episodes every month delivered to your inbox for, as Rob says, less than the price of a small cup of Costa coffee. Sorry, Costa. We're directly competing with Costa, Rob. I like that.
Yeah, me too.
And we're going to be back. So next episode after this will be on Patreon in a week's time. Episode 17 of LA Podcast and Extra Jab. And a week after that, we'll be back with a free podcast on all your platforms, which will be episode 357, as we say. Thank you so much. We've really enjoyed your company. Any of the new listeners out there like Pete who are listening to this podcast, but maybe haven't ever got around to submitting a story, find something for us. We do love to hear from all our listeners, Rob, and we love it. I mean, look, today, Rob, we had a new paper, the Great Yarmouth Mercury. And you know what, Rob? I felt a tinge of shame. Do you know why?
Why is that?
Because I felt like, because I've given up on local papers a long time ago, as you can probably tell. I mean, I'm always like, there doesn't seem to be anything there. But maybe I need to get back in the game, Rob.
Yeah, I mean,
I need to get back in the game and start sourcing those stories like I used to. Because,
Yeah, I mean, Alex, look, we all know you've given up a long time ago. But, we appreciate you turning up at the very least. Well, I do. I'm not sure about the listeners.
Yeah, sure they do too. And we appreciate them listening. Thank you very much for your company, everybody. See you soon. God bless.
And keep it local.
Local Anesthetic Podcast is now on Patreon, so sign up now to receive exclusive LA Podcast and extra jab bonus episodes to your inbox every month. These can't be found anywhere else, and if you want to hear them, go to patreon.com/LA Podcast Extra. More stories about stupid people doing stupid things. Teacher rushed to hospital after shoving USB cable in his penis.
No, fuck off, he didn't.
He inserted the cable to measure the length of his penis out of sexual curiosity.
What pleasure could you possibly derive from this? I mean, apart from trying it this evening.
More stupid people doing more stupid things. Parents ordered to pay 43-year-old son after getting rid of his pornography collection.
I just feel bad for the parents because it seems like the one thing their son has managed to get right is the fact that he has a vintage pornography collection. That's the only thing going on in his life.
Well, inside the boxes were films such as Lesbians in Tight Shorts, University Co-ed 25, and 1001 Erotic Nights.
What can I see? What I'd like to know is, what was it? It was a University Co-ed 25. Did he have the whole University Co-ed series?
And of course, the strangest news stories you've ever heard.
Man left baffled after finding whole potato in his bag of kettle chips.
What?
Dr. Boyce, 38, was watching the deers rut in Leicestershire when he felt peckish and opened a bag of crisps.
What a strange... Was he having a wank? Was he? What a strange... So what a strange thing to include in the story. So the journalist went over there. They're like, tell us what happened. He goes, well, I was watching some deers have sex out of my window.